Hi there, welcome back. This is Casey, and this is part 2 in a 3-part video series I am doing on recognizing and healing anxiety. So we are looking at, in this series, how anxiety may be manifesting within the body and how that may be reflected within the iris. We're also going to, in part 3, I'm going to present different herbal and dietary protocol that you can follow in order to heal anxiety. So I have had around 9 or 10 people submit their iris photos to me that have experienced chronic anxiety throughout their lifetime. So in part 1 and part 2, we are discussing different ways that anxiety may be manifesting, and that will include the HPA axis, or the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, as well as the gut brain axis. So we're looking at the health of the pituitary gland, we're looking at the health of the adrenal glands, we are looking at the health of the digestive system. As well, we're seeing different signs such as nerve rings, which may be showing us that these people are experiencing anxiety. So when we look at these different sources of anxiety in the iris, we're able to help ourselves to determine where our anxiety is coming from. So in part 3, like I said, we're going to look at different ways of healing that anxiety based on the source of the anxiety. All right, so let's get started. All right, so prominent features that I'm seeing in these eyes right away in terms of iridology would be that this is a strong constitution. There is a lot of lymphatic congestion. There are a number of radii solaris, which are these lines radiating from the center of the iris, or the pupil. And the pupil, radii solaris means rays of the sun, so the sun in terms of iridology would be the pupil, and the pupillary margin is indicating the stomach lining. So we have the stomach right outside the pupil, and then we have the small and large intestines right outside of that. And when we have radii solaris, that is showing us that there is toxicity within the stomach and bowels that is radiating into the rest of the body, the glands, organs, and brain zones that may be affecting the overall health of this person. We're also seeing some nerve rings, especially you can see them a little bit better in the right eye. So those are also indications that there could be some anxiety. We do see a skin ring in both eyes. And I have seen that the thyroid is showing up also in both eyes. So the thyroid, so we're looking at anxiety, and when we see the thyroid showing any kind of imbalance, we're wondering also if there could be some level of depression. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing overall. Strong genetics, a lot of lymphatic congestion, a number of radii solaris, nerve rings, a skin ring, and in this left eye, I'm seeing that this pupil is slightly constricted, so there could be some level of stress in the central nervous system. When we're looking at anxiety, we're looking primarily at the autonomic nervous system, and especially the adrenal gland. And we are seeing, so let's go ahead and get into some of these radii solaris. We are seeing some imbalance in this left adrenal gland area, and it is extending all the way through the kidney into the lymphatic and integumentary or skin zones. Okay, and then a little bit of stress in that left thigh, knee, foot, and then moving just to the right of that, we have the abdominal lining. So again, more to do with the digestive system. This is the pelvis right in here. And then this is the upper abdomen. Okay, and then this whole entire area in here is the lung area. And the heart area looks pretty healthy. I would say there's a possibility of some family history of heart imbalance, but nothing I would be too worried about for this person. Looks like a pretty healthy heart area. There's not as many radii solaris in this whole entire lung and heart area as there is in the rest of the body. And again, there is a lot of lymphatic congestion, and that could be concealing some of the radii solaris, but we're just looking at the more prominent areas. Okay, so we're getting into the shoulder and the neck area. Could be some chronic pain in the neck and shoulder. Again, this is the left iris, so this would be the left side. And then this area in here is the mastoid and the medulla. So we're really close to the mastoid, but the radii solaris is more specifically going through the medulla brain zone. And I'm not going to cover in detail exactly what each of these brain zones are. I have talked about that in depth in a lot of my other iridology readings, so I don't want to repeat myself too much, but if you would like to know more about the brain zones, I'm just going to name them off as I see them, and then you can go and either watch other videos that I've put up or look at my website, and I have a long, pretty detailed description of each brain zone. So this would be medulla. And this slight radii solaris here would be the ear. So the ear and the mastoid being that bony prominence behind the ear, there could be something going on in that area. And then this primarily would be the balance and dizziness center, or the equilibrium zone. And then at 12 o'clock we have animation life, or vitality brain zone. So just to be clear, when you see these radii solaris, and I'm speaking to different brain zones, and you look up what those brain zones are, that is going to show you that there is some stress within those areas. Okay, and then this one, ego pressure, can be indicating some additional anxiety in the way that it is the zone that governs our ideals and goals, and then how we pressure ourselves about how we are achieving them. It's also known as the self-stress zone. And then this area in here is the forehead. So forehead, not necessarily a brain zone, but I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. I do want to show you guys, actually I forgot to make a note of the pituitary and the pineal gland. Those are both coming up. So both of these being psychic centers. The pituitary is right in this area here. And the pineal is right in this area in here. Okay, so we have radii solaris going through the pituitary in that self-stress zone. And then in the pineal, we also have, actually it's kind of more right in here. We have the acquired intellectual language, also known as acquired mental speech, listening, learning, and speaking zone. So far, in terms of the endocrine system, we have the adrenal gland, we have the pituitary, which is known as the master gland, and the pineal, which are all showing some signs of stress. And let's see. So the forehead area is right in here, the nose area is right in here. And then I want to show you that there is something going on in the parathyroid and the thyroid. So this is the parathyroid right here, and then the thyroid right in here. So parathyroid, thyroid, when you see thyroid come up, and in this case, because we're looking at anxiety, the thyroid can indicate some level of depression, and those two definitely can go hand in hand. So I wouldn't be surprised if this person does experience from time to time, or even on a chronic level, depression. And then this little sore spot would be in the vocal cord area. And again, you can look that up on my website, what a sore spot or a drug deposit is indicating, but basically there is some focus for this person in that whole entire throat chakra area. Speaking, creativity, and speaking your truth and being heard. So that's all that area in there. And then there's all of these little radii solaris are pointing to some level of possible pain or tension in the back. This is the whole back area in here. And then these two, actually this one is still in the back area, so this is still back. But these two lines right here are in the female reproductive area. So there could be something going on with that female reproductive area. Okay, so we have the pituitary, the pineal, the thyroid, the parathyroid, and the adrenal gland. So, and again, I'm going to be covering how to address anxiety and just a basic protocol in terms of herbs and diet in the third video. But when you see all of the glands under some level of stress, you can start by addressing the pituitary gland as the master gland, and you can also address specifically the different glands. So you could address the pituitary and the adrenal gland, or you could start by addressing the pituitary gland with herbs, and that would be working on the entire endocrine system. But again, I'm gonna cover that in the third part of this series. Okay, so stress in the digestive system, stress in the glands, and a lot of this, for the most part, is coming from the digestive system. So she is also going to be first and foremost addressing her digestive system. And we're seeing a few nerve rings. We can see them a little more prominently in the right iris. And we have been seeing throughout this series pretty much every eye that I've looked at. For the most part, I think there may have been one exception so far, there have been nerve rings. Okay. let's move on to the right iris. And again, we're looking at a pretty similar situation. We have a number of radii solaris, and we're seeing right away that we have the same thing. We have the tiny foot, and we have the adrenal gland showing up pretty prominently right in this area, coming directly from the stomach area. So again, stomach and bowels being a large focus, along with addressing the overall health of the entire endocrine system. And let's see, what else are we seeing? So this area in here showing a bit of stress, and just like in the left iris, I have to say things are showing up fairly bilaterally in these eyes, so meaning that the weaknesses I'm seeing so far are showing up equally on each side. So we do see some tension in the female reproductive area. Here. Oops. And here. Oh my goodness. Throw this area in there. And then we're seeing also the parathyroid and the thyroid area in the right eye. So parathyroid right in here, and thyroid, let's see, let me get a different color. So parathyroid in here, and then thyroid right in here. And the tonsil area, so just the entire throat. And lower jaw right in here. Okay, and we're seeing the forehead. And then above that, we have acquired intellectual language, also known as acquired mental speech, listening, learning, and speaking zone. Sorry, I can't seem to draw a straight line today. And then just to the left of that, we have the self-stress. We just saw that in the left eye, but we have it showing up again in the right. So again, our goals and ideals and how we pressure ourselves to achieve them. We have animation life showing up, or vitality zone. And along with that, we're seeing the pituitary gland right in this area. So pituitary gland in both irises, right in this area in here. And let's see if pineal is coming up too. Big time pituitary, big time, this whole section right in here. And the pineal would be just to the right of that. I'm not seeing any radii solaris going through it, but there is one right next to it, so it could be affected. Okay, this is the sensory motor. This is the erogenous brain zone. And again, please feel free to look that up on my website, or I've spoken to it a number of times, so you can watch other videos or look that up. And then the medulla, again, showing up. Major brain zone, the medulla. So yes, there's a lot of brain zones coming up, and there are a lot of radii solaris, but this person does have a strong constitution. I need to mention that. So although there is some stress and anxiety showing up in the body, it's not such an overwhelming amount that is insurmountable. Okay, so some detoxification, purification, herbal and dietary modifications, and it could take some time, but you will be able to heal your life and your body. All right, so the neck is right in here. So we had neck come up on both sides. Could be some chronic pain in the neck and both sides, as well as the shoulder area right in here. And I'm going to leave those. I'm not going to highlight them, but yes, neck and shoulder. And so this whole entire lung area, there is a little flash mark right here, so I can't see all of it super clearly, but it does look fairly clean in that area. All right, so in the right iris, we are going to see the liver, which we don't see in the left. So let's see how that liver. So there is, this line right here is going right through the liver area. And again, all of this stress within the body is emanating from the stomach and bowels. So you're going to be looking at the digestive system. And okay, so this is the ovary in here. So we have female reproductive coming up, and then in particular, so this would be the female reproductive organs, and then the ovary on the right side is showing up. And then this would be, let's see, so above that ovary is the pancreas. So we have pancreas, which is not surprising when you have this kind of stress within the digestive system to see that the pancreas is showing some stress. And then this is actually the appendix. All right, I think that might be, for the most part, all I'm seeing in these eyes. And I do want to actually talk about, I don't usually, it's not really how I was trained by Dr. Morse to include different constitutional typing, but I have studied it just on my own, and there is a constitution, and this comes from Farida Sharon's book of Iridology, and there is a constitution that is called anxiety gastric, and this has, it shows a picture in my book, and it's pretty much the exact picture of these eyes. So you have a strong fiber iris structure, so a strong constitution, and then you have a number of radii solaris, and you have some nerve rings, and the radii solaris are cutting through those nerve rings. And I'm just going to read a little paragraph from her book, And what she says about this constitution type is that the emotions involved are anxiety, fear, irritation rising from conflict, indecision, and confusion. And the personality type contains two strong energy movements: outward goal direction through radii solaris and inward containment through nerve rings. In their negative expression, this type wallows in unresolved conflict, wastes energy, stops, changes, is unable to make a decision, follow through, or resolve problems. Breakdown is the inevitable result of exhausted adrenals and a depleted nervous system. So that would be the negative manifestation. And then the positive manifestation would be that this person can express and dialogue both aspects of their personality with creative joy and resolve conflicts by looking at both sides before making the best choice, or perhaps doing both. They may avoid choice by going along with whatever stronger, more defined personalities around them want to do. So yeah, that's just a little excerpt from the book by Farida Sharon describing this Iris constitution. So I'm not sure, take it as you will if it resonates. If not, then, forget it. But in terms of healing, we will be looking at the digestive system, the glandular system, healing the kidney and adrenal area so that we can clear some of the lymphatic congestion. And then really addressing different symptoms of depression and anxiety while you're doing this. So when you are healing the body and you have anxiety, sometimes it gets a little worse before it gets better. So in my opinion, you want to be addressing those symptoms through herbal protocol so that you're moving forward. You're constantly moving forward. All right, I think that's it, and we're going to go on to the next eyes. Let me know if you have any questions, and I appreciate you watching. Okay, see you in a second. Okay, so moving on. This next set of eyes, the photos are a bit blurry, but I definitely can work with them. I can see a lot in these photos, so I do want to show you what I'm seeing in terms of anxiety. And let's go ahead and start with the left iris. And the most prominent thing I am seeing, and just a quick note, these are similar in type to the eyes that I just completed in terms of strong constitution. We're seeing some nerve rings and a number of radii solaris. Okay, and as well as stress within the digestive system. And in these eyes in particular, I'm being most drawn to, in this left iris, this large area of chronic, even into the degenerative. And don't be afraid if these are your eyes and I say the word degenerative. It just means that there is an imbalance that has progressed, and likely this is an inherited area of weakness. Absolutely does not mean that it cannot be corrected. Okay, so we're seeing this very striking dark area in the pituitary gland. All right, so I mean, start there. That is, I would say, the beginning, middle, and end of the story in terms of reclaiming your health, is working on the pituitary gland. All right, now that said, you're going to also need to address the digestive system, because there is a lot of stress going on in the digestive system, and the stress that the pituitary gland is under is actually coming from the gut. So stomach and bowels, and then the health of the glands, especially the pituitary gland. And I also see a lot of lymphatic congestion. And yeah, okay, so let's highlight this area. And that pituitary gland that we're seeing is in the self-stress zone, and that came up in the last reading as well. So the self-stress zone it's not necessarily the anxiety zone, but it definitely contributes. The self-stress zone is also known as the perfectionism zone. So it is about our goals and ideals and how we pressure ourselves about how we are achieving them. It also is related to blood pressure. So we have a lot going on in that self-stress and pituitary gland area. And then next thing I'm seeing is this area in here. It's like a combination of genetic intelligence or inherent mental. And this is the brain zone, also known as the anxiety zone. So this came up a lot in the first video that we did, part 1 to this anxiety series. And generally speaking, this is the zone you're looking for when you're looking at anxiety. So this zone also is very dark. That whole area is pretty dark, and that is related to anxiety, and then it is opposite the adrenal gland. So when you see this diagonal line from the inherent mental or anxiety zone into any kind of weakness that you might see in the adrenal and kidney area, that is just another emphasis on healing stress within the body. Okay, so now that we're down here, it does look like there is some lymphatic congestion and inflammation, and as well as some weakness in the adrenal and kidney area. And all of this is coming from the gut, the stomach, and bowels. All right, let's see what else. Balance and dizziness right in here, and then medulla right in here. So you can check out the description of those brain zones. I have spoken quite a lot to the medulla and the balance and dizziness. Balance and dizziness is sort of what it implies in the name. The medulla has a lot of different functions that are encompassed in that brain zone, so I invite you to read about that in more depth. You can find that on my website. You can also watch more of the videos I have done, and you'll see that I've spoken to that quite a lot. Okay, and then we're also seeing the mastoid. It's interesting because these eyes are really similar in terms of what we're seeing right away as the last eyes that I just looked at. So mastoid, which is that bony process behind the ear. And then medulla right next to that. This is the neck area, and fairly close to the ear. I would say there could be a condition of tension, chronic tension in the neck area. And then you can see in this bowel wall, and it's interesting because it's in each of the irises, you can see on the right side in the bowel wall or the autonomic nerve wreath. So when you see stress within the autonomic nerve wreath, you're looking at stress within the ANS or the autonomic nervous system, which is related to anxiety. But in both eyes, we're seeing this line here, and it's interesting because it indicates different areas in each eye. So in the left eye, this is the descending colon, And then in the right eye, we have the small intestine over here. Okay, so this is the descending colon. And it is in the autonomic nerve wreath or the bowel wall. We do have some nerve rings, and again, the pictures are a bit blurry, so I'm not even going to draw them in, but you guys, you may be able to see them. I have some other photos from this person, so I was able to discern that these are absolutely nerve rings. So anytime you see these circular rings in usually they're in somewhat of the periphery of the iris, that is indicating stress within the autonomic nervous system. And then this area in here is the heart and lung area. This area right exactly here is the heart area. So it's sort of nestled up against the bowel wall or autonomic nerve wreath. And there could be some history of imbalance within that heart area, just within the genetic lineage. But I'm not seeing a marked imbalance in this particular iris in this lifetime in the heart area. It's something that I'm picking up from the genetic lineage that I'm seeing here. Okay, let's see. What else? What other radii solaris are we seeing? It's so interesting because we just did the eyes that I just did previously that are on this video are really similar. So we have the upper abdomen here, and then the next prominent radii solaris is in the pelvis, so there could be some stress in the pelvis. Again, this is the left side. And then we have the hip right in here and the thigh, knee, foot right in here. So hip, left hip, could be something going on in the thigh, knee, foot. Whenever you're mapping out the iris, it's always nice to map out the 6 o'clock and the 12 o'clock lines as you see them from the pupil. So the 6 o'clock line being the thigh, knee, foot, the 12 o'clock line being the vitality center. And both of those are showing up not as prominently as what I've mentioned so far, but I am seeing them. And then again, we have the kidney and adrenal in this area. Female reproductive, so uterus in particular in this area. So this is the uterus, and then female reproductive area below that. Okay. Next thing I want to look at, this whole area in here is the back. Not that it's not an important area of the body, but I'm more focused, at least in these readings, on signs of anxiety, but there could definitely be some chronic pain in the back area. And then this whole entire area here is sort of the throat chakra area. We have the vocal cords, esophagus, scapula, bronchus, and then we have the thyroid and the parathyroid. So this is the parathyroid. And then the thyroid just below that, extending into this area. I see a little bit more weakness in the parathyroid than the thyroid itself, but being that they are very interconnected, I wouldn't be surprised if there is something going on in the thyroid. And then again, when we're looking at thyroid and we're looking at anxiety, we have the likelihood that we are also looking at some level of depression. We have tonsils in this area, upper jaw in here, and then forehead in here. I think all of these things came up in the last set of eyes that I just looked at, but it's really interesting. Okay, so we are seeing that we have, I would say, the primary focus for this person. We do have a skin ring, which you're going to be expecting a skin ring when you see weakness in the thyroid or parathyroid area. But the primary focus would be the pituitary gland and the health of the stomach and bowels. All right, so let's move on to the right eye. And it's funny, we do see a little reflection here of this person's finger in the camera. Actually, there was a reflection also in the last reading. I don't think I mentioned it, but that just happens sometimes. But I can see underneath the reflection. So okay, so with the right eye, like I said, this is the small intestine area. So just a lot going on in the stomach and bowels in general. And we have the appendix right in here, and then the hip. So this would be the right hip. Appendix and hip. Again, when you see this dark, almost black in an eye, it has gone from the acute to the subacute into the chronic and is into the degenerative. And trust me, I've seen a lot of this. I don't want to alarm anyone if you have a spot of degeneration. It's just, it's definitely something that you could have inherited, and will just be your first and primary focus in your healing and detox journey. Okay, so thigh, knee, foot at 6 o'clock, and then again, vitality center or animation life at 12 o'clock. And then just medial. This kidney does look to be in a little bit more of a serious condition than the left kidney. So this is the adrenal, and then the whole kidney is pretty dark. Female reproductive, this area in here, maybe something that you would like to focus on. So female reproductive area, and then even into the bladder in here. So this would be the bladder. And so let's check. All right, so the thyroid and parathyroid are in this area. I'm not seeing as much going on in the thyroid on the right side, maybe a little bit of congestion and inflammation in the parathyroid and thyroid, more so on the left. It was more visible. This is the lower jaw, right in here. And this is the eye itself, so the right eye. Okay, and again we have the self-stress or ego pressure brain zone coming up. So that's showing up in both eyes pretty significantly. And then the pituitary gland is within that brain zone. So pituitary, I would say, is your focus, along with the stomach and bowels. Along with, I mean, in any detox protocol, you're looking at clearing the lymphatic congestion through the major channels of elimination, especially the kidneys. So we're seeing kidney and adrenal show up in both eyes. And this line right here it's sort of a combination of the inherent mental or anxiety zone, and that is a zone we're looking for related to anxiety. So it is opposite the kidney and adrenal area, as well as it's somewhat in the erogenous brain zone, so right in here. So you may want to look at both of those, and you can look at descriptions of those on my website if you would like to. Just more indications of anxiety. Yeah. And then mastoid process here. And mastoid is that bony process behind the ear. It's very close to the medulla brain zone. So you may want to check out medulla as well. Just to see, I mean, you know, your approach is going to be pretty similar to most people who are healing and detoxing, but I don't know, it's really interesting to see what brain zones might be affecting your day-to-day life. Okay, this is the ear. And the neck area as well. So again, we have neck coming up. I wouldn't be surprised if there is chronic pain in the neck on both sides. This side might even be a little more prominent. So neck and ear. Pretty deep into the neck. And then this is all the lung and chest area. So nothing super prominent showing up. You know, there definitely is a lot of congestion and stress in the area, but we don't see any super prominent radii solaris or lacunas in this area. This is the breast, so this would be the right breast right here. I don't know why I'm being shown this area, but this is the right breast. And then we have the liver coming up. The liver is showing up the liver is reflected in the right eye and not the left, just like the heart is reflected in the left eye and not the right. So working on the liver along with everything else. This is, but right on the liver. I would say this is a genetic pass. and this is upper abdomen into the duodenum, and then ovary right in here. So again, more female reproductive, focus on the female reproductive area in here. And we do have that skin ring. So I'm seeing, I have cropped these photos, but I am seeing in the full photos there are also some blood vessels showing up in the sclera. So I'm seeing a lot of signs of inflammation, lymphatic congestion. And then, as I noted, the main focus I'm seeing glandularly would be the pituitary gland, and then the thyroid, parathyroid especially, and then of course the kidney and adrenals. So female reproductive, including the ovary. Did it come up on the left side? I'm seeing it on the right. I think it came up on the left, but I already can't remember. Yeah, a bit on the left. Okay. So, I am going to, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I'm going to do a third video in this series on herbal protocol and dietary protocol for healing anxiety, and that's just going to be a pretty basic detox protocol with an emphasis on herbs and foods to avoid, and then foods that you want to be eating, and then herbs that you can be taking to address symptoms of anxiety as they appear on your healing journey. All right, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and see you soon. Okay.